This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be.
Big pile of water, like most of us here in the Northeast are, particularly in Connecticut, on this, as we're recording on this August day, evening. Welcome to Journeys Untrekked. There's probably rain wherever we're going. Let's hope it doesn't affect our booking. Welcome, everyone, to this month's journey through the Looking Glass. I'm your co-host, Scott Criscuolo. Good to hear from you and see you, and hope you're there. Thanks for listening, as always, here on the PTB Wrestling Network. Joining me is my compadre. I could say that I'm raining here in Connecticut. He could be snowing where he is, but I wish I had his winters. His winters are my springs. Maybe one day he'll understand snow. Anyway, good evening, Dave Hall.
Hey, Scott, I'm doing well. Yeah, I the only way I ever see snow is if I actually travel to what in New South Wales is called the Snowy Mountains. Pretty well the only place in the state that gets snow. So, it's lovely day down here in Australia where we're starting to build up to spring weather and getting ready to start switching seasons again. So it's all good, and I'm very excited to once again be journeying with you on our jumps down the rabbit holes. So it's all exciting.
It is. It's always a pleasure, Dave. This is always been one of my favorite shows to do because I love the way we kind of play around with stuff, go back, fix things, create things. And of course it is August. Which means, of course, it is SummerSlam month. SummerSlam took place in real life, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, very early this year.
Yeah, yep. Second or third straight year now that SummerSlam. Yeah, third straight year because, let's see, I went in 2021. That was in Vegas, and that was mid-August. And then 2022 was the first of 3 straight years that it was the beginning of August in Nashville, and then last year Detroit, and of course a couple weeks ago we were in Cleveland. Next year we don't know, but we know the following year we'll be in Minneapolis. So, all right. But back in the day, Dave, of course SummerSlam took place at the end of August throughout history, or the middle of August, depended. Like, for instance, there were a couple of years though, 1997 took place in the beginning of August. It was August 3rd. That was kind of when WCW and WWF kind of flopped weeks during their pay-per-view calendars. Excuse me. WWE did like the beginning of the month for like through the end of 97. It was like the first Sunday. And then when they did the Rumble in 98, they went back to the end of the month or middle of the month. So anyway, tonight, of course, we will be discussing SummerSlam, which is always one of my favorite shows. This is the third straight year that Dave and I have gone through the Looking Glass with this iconic pay-per-view brand. Why don't you go back to the catalog on placetobe.podbean.com, type through the Looking Glass, and go back through our catalog, listen to all the episodes because they're all great. But if you want to listen specifically for the SummerSlam episodes, we did one in 2022 and last year, so different themes. This year, we're going to do what we do best, which is fix shitty shows and go back pre-brand and create 2 or 3 pre-SummerSlam shows. So we'll try and make this a neat and tidy episode for you. We are probably looking ahead. Just want to let everyone know we're probably looking ahead maybe December. We'll probably look at our next mailbag episode. Dave, what do you think? Not a bad idea.
Absolutely. It's always good to get those little Christmas presents out there.
Exactly. So for Christmas, we'll get, obviously we're a few months away. I'll mention it to all of you in the October and November episodes, but reach out to us and give us your Through the Looking Glass. What would you like to see us fix? Book that never happened, book that should have happened, fix something that was booked and sucked, etc. So that'll be a lot of fun. So we'll do that for the end of year episode of Through the Looking Glass. Talk about that down the line. All right. So tonight we're going to rebook 2 previous SummerSlams that were fairly terrible. I think we all know that they're comfortably considered bad. These aren't two shows that. I mean, one of them is historically good because it's the first one. I guess I told you what it is. The other one is pretty awful in the roundabout sense, except for a couple things. And then after that, we're going to go back in time to 3 years pre-SummerSlam and book what a SummerSlam would be like in that year that it didn't happen. So, all right. So, as I mentioned, Dave, look, before we talk about crappy SummerSlams, I think you may have mentioned this before, but in case some of our listeners are new, and if they go back to our catalog, they'll hear it a second time, but that's fine. Give me your 2 or 3 favorite SummerSlams. Give me 3. Your 3 favorite SummerSlams.
Favorite SummerSlams. Well, SummerSlam '89 is one of my all-time favorites. I just love that, and
that's a gold standard episode, Dave. That's a gold standard show, Dave, for me.
Absolutely,
I agree with you 1,000,000,000%. Totally.
So that was just outstanding. I'm one of those people. I have a soft spot. I always enjoyed '92. I've always enjoyed the Wembley Stadium event. I know it has some flaws, but overall, it's a show that I do enjoy a lot. And I think another one that I really enjoy is now I'll get my year right. I'm pretty certain it's '02. Rock, Hunter, Shawn. That's '02, isn't it?
You broke up there for a minute. Say that again.
Sorry, I was saying the other one that I really enjoy, I think, is 2002. That's Rock.
Oh, that's another gold standard show. Totally.
Yeah. So they're probably the 3 ones that I enjoy the most.
Well, 2 of the 3 that are my personal favorites you took. I love '89. SummerSlam '89. If there's a few shows, Dave, and I'm going to get my balls busted for one of them, but that's okay. There's probably like 3 WWF pay-per-views that I could probably watch from beginning to end, anytime, anywhere, any place, and never get sick of them. Starrcade '85, WrestleMania 3, and SummerSlam '89.
Absolutely.
Those are those 3 shows to me are just gold. Gold. So SummerSlam '89, no doubt. This one's broad, but give me anyone between 97 and '02. That 6-year stretch, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, and 2002, they're all amazing. However, I would absolutely say 2002. 2002, yes, I know, Triple H, Shawn, I get it. But let's take that match out. That show is still damn good. You've got Rock Brock. You've got Kurt and Ray. You've got Jericho and Flair. RVD Benoit. I mean that show is pretty amazing. And I'm trying to be objective, and I'm not including Triple H and Shawn, although you can argue that match is one of the 5 greatest of all time. The other one that I could probably watch from beginning to end and never get sick of it is probably '98. I love SummerSlam '98. I love Triple H. I love Steve and Taker main event at the Garden. I love Rock, Triple H in the not Hell in a Cell. That was later. In the ladder match.
The ladder match.
I loved seeing Jeff Jarrett get his hair cut. Edge making his in-ring debut. I love. So I would say probably for me, 89, 98, and 02. But again, any one of those 6 from 97 through 02 are all amazing watches. And they all have got just matches up the wazoo. 03 is when it starts to kind of tip a little bit. But there's some other decent ones. I feel like 08. Is 08 any good? 07 is not good. 08? Eh. 09? 09 has that really good Cena Orton of the 97 Cena Orton matches. That Cena Orton match is pretty good. Any in this debt? Well, 2013. Speaking of 2013, for those that, of course, follow us on the Place to Be Facebook page, you saw that we had the poll up for which SummerSlam Greg Diener and I will do for this month's episode of Wrestle Tracks. We had 91. 91's a good show. 91's a good show. We did 91, 2000, and 2013, and it looks like 91 won. So people love vintage, Dave. You know that.
They do. They do.
So we'll be doing SummerSlam 91.
I think the thing with 2013 is it really is very much the good is absolutely outstanding, but the rest is average. It's really got that sort of feel, but I think the good outweighs the average. So overall, the show is really good, but there is some absolute crap on it as well.
Yeah. Of course, my favorite match on that show is, and I know everybody loves Cena and Daniel Bryan, and that match is great. I love Punk and Brock. That match is fantastic. Yeah. Obviously, everybody wants to punch their own faces whenever they see Orton walk up the ramp with the briefcase. But in any event, so tonight though, we're not gonna talk about any of those shows.
No.
Otherwise, we wouldn't need the looking glass, because why would we need to fix any of those? They're perfect. We're gonna take two shows from the history that are generally considered, in the grand scheme of things, pretty awful, and we're gonna fix them. And then we're going to go back in time to 3 years in history where there wasn't a SummerSlam, and we're going to make one. So let's do that. So Dave, I kind of tipped our hand already, but what is the first SummerSlam we are going to attempt to fix?
Well, we're going to attempt to fix the very first SummerSlam 88. It's got a poor reputation, and I think the issue with SummerSlam 88 is not so much the high points of the show, but that it very much comes across as just a glorified Madison Square Garden house show. There's a lot of matches on there that don't make sense. You've got guys who are feuding with other guys, not facing each other on the event, and so the storylines aren't cohesive, the feuds aren't matched up, and so the show itself just seems very hodgepodgey, higgledy-piggledy, just not got the flow that you would like, that we've come to get with pretty well SummerSlam 89 and following, where they really match those storylines together. So that's the big issue with SummerSlam 88 is you've got a lot of guys who they're in the wrong matches.
Right.
And I think if you put the right guys together and the hot feuds and the right storylines, it improves SummerSlam 88 tenfold. Now, there is some good stuff on SummerSlam 88, but just not a lot.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and obviously the main event is pretty great. So I think that we could probably keep. I think we could keep the Mega Powers and the Mega Bucks. That's a great...
Absolutely.
That's a great card. That's not anything that needs to be fixed. So I am comfortable with keeping that match. The rest of them...
I would argue in the point of time of what they were trying to do, you can probably keep Honky Tonk Man Ultimate Warrior as is as well.
Yeah.
It was the sudden withdrawal of Beefcake, and the reality was that was the storyline. Honky Tonk Beefcake, that was the advertised match. Then you had the Beefcake You had the Beefcake Ron Bass situation on television shown that weekend, and Beefcake's pulled from the match. Ultimate Warrior goes in, wins it in 30 seconds, and Honky Tonks reigns over. I think you can keep that as well. I think that is a historic moment that some people, I've heard some podcasters talk about it being a absolutely great moment. Other people don't like it, but the reality is it is an important, vital part and a good story.
Right. Yeah. I'm okay with those. That's yeah. Obviously, what you were alluding to in terms of when you were alluding to stuff that needed to be fixed, that is, of course, the Jake Roberts Hercules match and the Rick Rude Junkyard Dog match.
Absolutely.
Those two matches make no sense because, well, Jake and Rude were feuding.
And
now
in a hot feud.
Yeah, in a very hot feud. Now, I don't know, Dave, if here in the Prime universe, the problem was they had a match. Obviously, they were part of the tournament months earlier at WrestleMania 4, and the match was kind of but the feud hadn't really been fired up yet. Plus, they booked that match to be a draw because DBI, the match was the card was predetermined. So, but now, end of August, after, Rick Rude painted Cheryl on his crotch and on his crotch tights and all this other, by the time we hit the end of August, this feud is 10 times hotter than it was at the end of March. I think it's safe to say that, Dave. So I don't see why we don't roll that match again here at SummerSlam in front of the Garden. Rude and Jake with Rude with Cheryl and Jake. Maybe do a stip, like if Jake wins, Rude has to kiss Jake's ass or something, and if Rude wins, he gets to kiss Cheryl or something of that nature, or gets to go out with her. Something, I don't know, something like that. So some kind of stip to kind of juice the feud up. If you're worried about it not having any legs, which I think is nonsense because the feud most definitely had legs by the time we hit the end of June. So I think it's safe to say, Dave, we dump JYD, we dump Hercules, and we have Jake and Rude with some kind of stip.
Absolutely. That's 100% given.
Tag titles. Now, I have a problem with Demolition and Heart Foundation.
It's pretty much the best match on the card.
In ring, yeah.
In ring.
Yeah.
Now, the issue you have with this match, as I said, it's pretty much the best match on the card. Storyline-wise, Brett had been feuding with Bad News Brown since WrestleMania. But on television, that feud was pretty well come to an end. And they were in the process of putting the Hart Foundation back together. The Hart Foundation had fired Jimmy Hart. And this match plays very much into that story. Jimmy was at ringside with Demolition and sort of trying to give the secrets. Yeah, the Harts hadn't really done anything to earn the title shot. But, the reality is this match fits storyline. And I think it is a match you could keep on the card as well.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Now, the only alternative match that I would see would result in another match needing to be changed. And so if we can just hold the tag title match for a moment.
Sure.
I want to talk about the Rougeaus. The Rougeaus and the Bulldogs open the event and go to a 20-minute draw at like 19 minutes. Okay, it's not a bad match, but again, there is no story behind this. The Rougeaus had only just turned heel in the 4 or 5 weeks before SummerSlam happened, and they turned heel on the Killer Bees. So
Right.
in my mind, the Rougeos should be facing the Killer Bees. This should be their bluff. They had sort of a match at WrestleFest, which wasn't a televised event. And that match happened like the weekend after the Rougeau brothers had actually done their heel turn on television. So most of the audience didn't really even know that it had happened. So I think what I would like to consider is you have the Rougeos and the Killer Bees have a match which plays onto what's happening on television and sort of allows you to really play into the feud side of it. And then if we come back to Demolition, you then have the option. You can either have Demolition face the Hart Foundation or the Bulldogs, one or the other. Either match would probably be just as good as the other one.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the tag division was really starting to percolate by the summer of '88, and then unfortunately, a lot of the really good teams that would fire up the WWF in '88 wouldn't have a few months. The Rockers. If the Rockers had stuck around,
they just debuted on television just before, like the weekend or two before SummerSlam '88 was their TV debut. So they just arrived, but really, they had maybe one appearance on TV, maybe two.
Right. And then, of course, we would get the Brainbusters. That would be pretty awesome. So, so we were in a kind of a kooky place, with the tag division.
What I could say, let me throw this out as an idea. You could put the Demolition tag title defense against the Bulldogs, and then you could turn the Brother Love segment into the Hart Foundation as the guest, with Jimmy Hart coming on, announcing that he has sold the contract of the Hart Foundation to someone else, but he doesn't say who it is. So you get that beginning of the build to him linking up with the Rougeos and that storyline going to become a development, but you don't play the whole story out at this event. Or you maybe even have the Hart Foundation being interviewed by Brother Love and attacked by the Rougeos at the very end of the segment, with Jimmy Hart jumping up and down, laughing and cheering.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. That's one thing. Jimmy Hart is kind of stirring the pot with all these tags, because not only is he, he's with the Hart Foundation, but they're of course slowly turning heel, a face, and then he's with the Rougeos. So what do you think you would put? So what would be your match then with these four teams? Like, what would you formulate?
Well, as I said, I think the Rougeos need to face the Killer Bees. Personally, I prefer the concept of the Demolition Hart Foundation match. I do too. It was the best in-ring match. You can keep it as is. Jimmy Hart stirring the pot at ringside, and and the Bulldogs can have a night off. They're really not doing anything at this point. They're treading water, and there's another team. There's probably another tag team match I would keep, as terrible as it is, only for the fact that it's the introduction of the next big contender.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you on the Bulldogs. Obviously, this Rougeau Bulldogs match happened in the midst of all the Dynamite Kid, Jacques Rougeau knocking teeth out, rolling nickels, whatever that whole saga was backstage throughout the month of August, in the company. Other than that, I mean, I hate to say it, the Bulldogs were pretty much cooked at this point. Dynamite was not healthy. It had been over 2.5 years since they had won the tag titles, WrestleMania 2. They hadn't really been relevant in almost a year since probably the feud with the Islanders and Bobby with the dog and all that with Winston and all that stuff. So they're kind of treading water. So I wouldn't even put them on this show, to be honest. I agree with you. I wouldn't even bother. Yeah, I would probably do I would keep Heart Foundation and Demolition. I would do Bees and Rougeaus. Is that what you said? Bees and Rougeaus? Yeah, Bees and Rougeaus. All right. I like that idea. All right, so we kept the main event. We kept the IC title match. We now have Rude versus Jake.
And we've kept the tag title match.
And we kept the tag title match. And we've now created Bees and Rougeaus. I would also like to get rid of Ken Patera because he's pretty much useless at this point too. Where can we put Bad News Brown?
I think Bad News needs a feature match. He needs a feature match with a win over someone that can take a loss. So I would suggest that Bad News he needs to be facing someone that, if they lose, it isn't going to matter. I would suggest someone like Tito Santana. I think Tito's not on the card because Strikeforce have just sort of, Rick Martel's just gone off and they didn't have Tito on this card. I think you could consider putting Bad News against Tito Santana. I think you get a decent match out of it. Tito will bump all over the place. Tito can take a loss, and it can be a pinfall loss. It doesn't have to be one of these DQ count out, save him, make it look safe. Tito can take a clean 1, 2, 3 in the ring to the Ghetto Blaster.
Okay. I think the match could be fun too. And that match could definitely be fun. All right, I'm game. All right, so we'll put Bad News and Jake. Let me see what else here.
Bad News and Tito, you mean?
Bad News and Tito, I'm sorry. Bad News and Tito. I feel like we need to keep the Powers of Pain because obviously they're building. The Bolsheviks are useless, though. How about putting the Bulldogs there and putting them over? And have them putting the Powers of Pain over.
But then you've got two babyface teams against each other. Because the Powers of Pain came in as babyface.
Yeah, that's right. They're still faces. That's a good point.
Yeah, the Bolsheviks are the only team you can really... Unless you're going to put the Conquistadors in the match.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Which, I'll say this. You know what? The Conquistadors, you could... I mean, you think about that for a minute. You put the Powers of Pain against the Conquistadors. The Powers of Pain can beat them up in like a minute and a half, win clean, just looking brutal. Basic squash match. I mean, that's really what the Bolsheviks should have been. It should have just been a squash match. But they wanted to, if you want to make the Powers of Pain look good, give them a squash match win like that.
Yeah,
or just have them squash the Bolsheviks.
Yeah, instead of making it a 5-minute match, make it
a minute and a half at the most.
Yeah. So in other words, keep the match, but rebook it to something more definitive for the Powers of Pain.
Squash. Yes, right. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Dino Bravo and Frenchie against Don Morocco.
Well, I don't like that match, but I think Dino needs to be. Well, we'll come back to Morocco in a minute. Dino Bravo needs to be on the card. They've just done the big push with him at the Royal Rumble. They gave him a pretty solid win at WrestleMania before in the tournament and then moved on. He's been getting a big push on television. You probably need Dino as much as I hate him. You probably need him in a match.
Mm.
But I don't think Morocco is the right person for him to be in the ring with.
No. How about... Well, Rick Martel's hurt. I don't know if I want to put Ken Patera down there. Ugh. I want to keep Boss Man Coco. I don't mind that match, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't mind that match. Who else is on the roster in 88?
What about Duggan?
Oh, yeah, I would definitely have Dino Bravo job. I would definitely have Duggan job to Dino Bravo. I approve. I approve. Yeah,
Again,
I'm not a Don Morocco fan at this point. I'm not a Don Morocco fan at this point. He is so fucking juiced up. It's embarrassing.
But the thing with Morocco is he was feuding with Greg the Hammer Valentine. So why have him face Dino Bravo?
I totally forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. So why don't we have Morocco and Greg Valentine's not even on here.
That's right.
Would you put Morocco in?
Yeah, put Morocco and Valentine on the card.
Okay. All right, I like that then. And Dino against... They could put Junkyard Dog there. We have nothing for him now.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could have Bravo beat JYD.
Beat him clean.
Unfortunately, I don't think it matters who you put Bravo in the ring with. It is not going to be much of a match. And we've already got a couple of jobbers in there. It's a shame the babyface side of the roster is just a little bit light when you take Brutus Beefcake out with the injury angle.
Sure.
And you take Brutus Beefcake out with an injury angle, and you've got a couple of guys that haven't turned up on television yet. Guys that are coming over the next couple of months that aren't there, but yeah, really, or guys who are about to turn babyface, like Hercules. By the time we get to Survivor Series, Hercules has done his babyface turn, and
right.
A couple of others. The Blue Blazer has arrived. You've got guys that are about to shift, but the babyface side of the roster is very thin at the moment.
It is. That's the only tough part. Yeah. It kind of restructures itself at 89. Another guy that would be great here, but he's not quite there, is Kurt Hennig. I think he's still in AWA.
He's debuted on television, but again, he debuted at WrestleFest, which is 2 weeks before SummerSlam.
Oh, right. He debuted in Milwaukee. Right. Yep.
But he hasn't appeared on television yet.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't put him here.
Yeah, the vignettes start after SummerSlam.
Right. Yeah, I'm happy with Dino Bravo and Junkyard Dog, and I would put Don Morocco and Greg Valentine. I think that's because you're talking about feuds that people have been following on the weekend Cindy shows, on Challenge, on Superstars. They talk about it on primetime. Yeah, I would definitely do that. I think people would be invested because if you watch the weekly TV, you would be invested. So, all right. So why don't we look at our reformulated SummerSlam card? So we're keeping the Mega Powers and the Mega Bucks. We're keeping Warrior pummeling Honky in 30 seconds. We're keeping the tag title match. We're keeping Demolition of the Heart Foundation. We now will do Rick Rude and Jake the Snake because that feud is red hot. It's probably the third hottest feud in the company.
Yeah.
We're doing the Powers of Pain and the Bolsheviks, same match, but we're making it more of a squash. We're doing the Rougeaus and the Killer Bees, Bad News Brown, Tito Santana, Dino Bravo, Junkyard Dog, Boss Man Coco, and Morocco, and the Hammer. I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I think we put some sauce in some of these feuds, and kind of given the fans a pretty hot card based on stuff going on at that moment in 1988.
Yep.
All right, let us know what you think. Comment on the Facebook page and on Twitter when you see the episode drop. What do you think of our SummerSlam 88 card? All right, let's move along. One more card that we'll try to fix. Another one where the main event's not the worst, but the undercard really needs to be fixed. Since we were in Cleveland for SummerSlam 2.5 weeks ago, let's go back to Cleveland. Where are we going, Dave?
We're going to jump to 1996, and we're going to see if we can fix the schmozzle that is SummerSlam 96 at the Gund Arena on, mid-August, 18th of August, 1996. And as you said, a card that, there are several matches on the card that, storyline-wise were okay, but there is a lot of utter crap on this card. And from a pay-per-view perspective, several people who probably should have been on the card and are not. And I think that needs to be rectified.
Well, yeah. Obviously, there's one giant omission. First of all, let's read the card that happened in case some of you may have forgot. So, on the pre-show, Steve Austin defeated Yokozuna. We're definitely fixing that. Main card, Owen Hart beat Savio Vega. Smoking Guns beat the New Rockers, the Godwins, and the Body Donnas in a four-way elimination for the tag titles. The Smoking Guns were the champs. They retained. Psycho Sid beat the British Bulldog. Sid had just come back in early July. Goldust beat Mark Marrow. Jerry Lawler against Jake Roberts in that terribly classless, tasteless feud with making fun of Jake's drinking and substance issues and that whole thing. Mankind, The Undertaker, the Boiler Room Brawl. And then Shawn and Vader for the world title. I think we keep Shawn Vader.
Yes.
I would change the result.
Absolutely.
I think Vader needs to win the title.
Yes.
So we'll keep that. We'll keep Mankind Taker. That match has to stay.
It has to. Now the question is, do you keep it a Boiler Room Brawl? Or do
Correct.
you make it something different? Could it be maybe a Falls Count Anywhere match?
Well, let's talk about that for a sec. Because if you're going to keep the Paul Bearer heel turn, you're gonna have to do something for Paul Bearer to turn heel on. The Boiler Room Brawl with the urn and everything that fits.
Yeah.
We would have to book something where Paul Bearer obviously turns on Taker. Are you anti-Boiler Room Brawl, or are you just coming up with a secondary option?
I'm just thinking of a secondary option. I mean, the Boiler Room Brawl, there's that it depends on how you feel about the match. I always struggle with. I think the element of so much of the match away from the audience, and we know obviously that it was pre-taped. It does take a little bit of the excitement out of the match. It doesn't have the atmosphere that you would like. And so it's not really until they're making their way towards the ring at the end of the match that the crowd are really able to get into it. My suggestion there being, if you did something like a Falls Count Anywhere in the building, you could start in the ring, you could brawl through the crowd, you could come back to the ring, and you could still have Paul Bearer wallop the Undertaker with the urn to allow Mankind to steal the pin. But those sorts of elements can still be maintained in the match. But I wonder if putting the whole match in front of the audience just ups the excitement factor a little bit and makes the audience more invested.
Because the match is in front of them. I see what you're saying.
Yes.
But
I'm not opposed to keeping the Boiler Room Brawl in there as well. I'm not saying that it should go all together. That's my personal feeling, is I feel it does take the crowd out a little bit. And I think when you're watching it, it does seem a little bit dull for that first part of the match.
Mm-hmm. True. All right. I'll pick up what you're putting down. We could do a Falls Count Anywhere match with them, and then have Paul Bearer turn on Taker in some capacity. We don't have to book that part of it, but all right. All right. So we're keeping Mankind and the Undertaker, but we're changing the stip from Boiler Room Brawl to a Falls Count Anywhere. All right, let's tackle the biggest problem on this show. I think you know where I'm going. Biggest problem on this show, we have to get Steve Austin on the main pay-per-view. The fact that he's not on here is ridiculous.
How can the King of the Ring, the guy who's just cut this killer promo 2 months earlier, be relegated to pre-show? It's just absolutely ridiculous.
It is. It's mind-boggling. And wrestling a totally cooked Yokozuna that nobody cares about anymore. Well, you don't want him and Savio because they've already wrestled twice.
You don't really need him and Jake again, because he beat the crap out of Jake at King of the Ring, and he beat Mark Mero at King of the Ring. So you don't need that either.
He's still a heel, technically, even though he's getting cheers at this point. I mean, he's still getting booed for the most part, but...
Where's Ahmed at this point? Is Ahmed hurt, or is he just not on the card?
No, he's hurt. Because, remember, he wrestled at In Your House International Incident, and then he had the kidney injury.
Right.
And they had the tournament, and Mark Mero won the tournament. And then Triple H beat him.
Right. Okay.
So he's hurt. He got hurt between In Your House International Incident when he was in that the 6-man tag with, which is still obviously one of my favorite. Everyone here at Place to Be knows one of my favorite, low flow matches of all time. That 6-man tag at In Your House International Incident. I love that match.
So do we do something as simple as we just need to find someone for Austin to beat up? Does Austin need to beat up someone like Bob Holly? I'm just trying to have a look at who's on the roster and who's around in the company at this point who we haven't already referred to. And unless you maybe do a rematch with Jake, a lot of the other players that you're looking at are probably going to be needed for other matches and other situations. And I'm wondering if maybe just having him get a solid victory over like a Bob Holly might be the way to go. Although I think we get a better match out of Jake if we put him and Jake back together.
That's probably the really only thing you're going to be able to do. Maybe that's the problem. That the reason Austin got this is because he had nothing else to do.
And you can play on Jake. You could do your pre-match could be your build-up could be Jake saying, The only reason you beat me at King of the Ring is I went into that final match hurt. Vader had attacked me. He damaged my ribs. Yep, all credit to you. You took advantage of that and you beat me. But, I'm back. I'm fully healthy again. And on my day, I can take anyone down. The DDT is the ultimate takedown. Let's go again. Austin's. Austin will stand there. He'll rip into Jake verbally, and then he'll come out and you can probably make the match a little bit more back and forth, and then Austin beats him clean again with the stunner.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I
and
honestly,
keeps Jerry Lawler off the card.
Yeah, I would honestly, no disrespect to Jake, love Jake, but considering we are building to the inevitable, even though he really doesn't start jaw-jacking about Brett until the later in the month into the fall, because it leads up to an amazing match at Survivor Series. He could start talking about Bret Hart. I don't think that could be a problem. He just maybe start up a little early and, take care of one of your old mentors. Yeah, I'm okay with that. All right, I'm game. We do Stone Cold and Jake in a rematch from King of the Ring, and we dump Jerry off the card because that feud is just despicable. So
yes.
Owen and Savio.
Well,
let's
hold off there because I want to talk about Owen in a minute. But I think the other key person, if you're looking at players and looking who you're building, we need to look at Sid. Now, I want to bring all this together because I'm wondering, Owen faces Savio, and then Davey Boy loses to Sid. But you're about to put those two together into one of the greatest tag teams the company's ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering why you wouldn't consider putting them in a tag team match on this card and starting that journey. And so I'm suggesting Sid needs another opponent, and that Owen and Davey could become a different tag match. Because look, you look at that 4-way tag match is terrible. It is utter
trash. You can say it's trash.
It is. It shouldn't be on the card. But I also not sure I would put Owen and Davey in a tag title shot against the Smoking Guns yet, because Sonny's only just joined them, and you really need to just continue to play into that a little bit more. And look, the reality is the Smoking Guns probably needed to face the Body Donners one-on-one. With Sonny having sort of left them, you never got that match on television. You never had that blow off of sort of the Body Donners versus the Smoking Guns. And as much as it's not going to be the greatest match in the world, I'm wondering if that's what needs to be one match, and then you have something like Owen and Davey beating the Godwins.
Yeah. I can do that. Because the tag division in this middle of 96 is pretty awful. It's pretty awful. So, as you can tell by the teams in that match, because the teams in that match are terrible. So, let me just clarify. So, you would have Owen and Bulldog against the Godwins. Is that what you said?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm fine with that. I mean, the Smoking Guns are the tag champs.
Yes, they're the tag champs.
Yeah. Who did you say you would put Owen and Bulldog with?
I'd put Owen and Bulldog against the Godwins, and I'd probably have the Smoking Guns beat the Body Donners, just because you never got a real televised payoff.
That's what you said. Oh, sorry, that's right.
Of Sonny turning on the Body Donners. You had that whole crap, Sonny goes, like, switches from the Body Donners to the Godwins, and then a week or two later switches from the Godwins to the Smoking Guns. And that's where the chaos of this 4-way tag team match happens. I think I would put the Smoking Guns against the Body Donners, beat them clean, and I would have Owen and Davey beat the Godwins clean, and that puts you on the trajectory, which is where they go after SummerSlam, of the Guns and Owen and Davey going for the tag titles.
Okay, that works for me. I think it sticks out the fact that the tag division is better than it looks if you really try hard enough. I think Owen and Davey, you're correct, should start working now. Having them separate, I think, made no sense.
Especially when you did the previous month, you had that Camp Cornette 6-man tag, and now Vader's facing Shawn in the title match. So you've got the rest of Camp Cornette. You've put them together, so you can really double down on their working together.
Yeah. No, I'm totally fine with that. Yep. Again, I think it accentuates what few teams are good in the tag division. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I would do that. So I would do the Guns and the Body Donnas. I would do Owen and Bulldog against the Godwins. I'd get rid of the New Rockers altogether.
Yeah. And so now the question is, what do you do with Sid? Because you've had Sid return, and he's on the trajectory. We know that they are going to push him quite strong, quite quick, and he's ends up, going into title matches by Survivor Series. So you need him to look good. So do you consider putting Sid against someone like the man who is in the middle of his ongoing punishment, Hunter Helmsley?
He's not even on the card.
No, he's not.
Well, the curtain call happened. So, and in our universe, the curtain call still happens. So, as they say in the Triple H Thy Kingdom Come DVD, Triple H had to keep eating plates of shit. So, I think maybe he just eats up a Sid powerbomb here.
It could be done. So, look, the reality is Hunter can take a beating. He can make Sid look good. Sid doesn't need to do a heck of a lot. Hunter can bounce around for him, because at that time Hunter could bounce around. He could do that very well, and you just limit the amount of time he's in control of the match, so that you're not playing into Sid being worked over too slow. But I think you could have Sid get a nice solid win over Hunter, and it makes him look powerful.
Yeah, I think so too. And you still kind of help rebuild Triple H up a bit as a sniveling heel, and he ends up on that Raw after, I guess it was it Raw the night after Buried Alive that he beats Mero to win the IC belt? I think it is.
Yeah, it's around that time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree on that. All right. So what do we got so far? So we keep Shawn and Vader, except Vader wins the title. We have Mankind Taker. We make that a false count anywhere. We have Sid, Triple H, or Hunter Hearst Helmsley. We have Owen Bulldog versus the Godwins. Smoking Guns defend the tag titles against the Body Donnas, and we have Stone Cold against Jake. I like that card. Better than this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I don't think, is there anything we need to add, or, I mean, Goldust Marrow we could keep, I guess. That match is fine.
That's what I was gonna say. That's probably the only other two guys that you would probably want to keep on the card is Goldust and Marrow, because
that match isn't really offensive. It's fine.
No, and the bigger key of that is those two guys become key players in the IC title picture over the next few months. So I think it's important that they're still being featured.
All right, okay, we're good with that then. All right, so there's our Looking Glass SummerSlam 1996 card. Let us know what you think on our socials. All right. Now, we're going to spend the remaining, say, 45 minutes or so going back in time and going to years where there was no SummerSlam and make one.
We've been doing this a little bit over the last 12 months. We started this with Survivor Series last year, and then we did it again with Royal Rumble, looking at Royal Rumbles that could have happened before they did, and then we did it with WrestleMania. We considered what if WrestleMania was held in 84. This has been a little bit of a trend we've been doing, and so we wanted to finish off the set of the four big ones and consider looking at SummerSlam if it happened prior to its actual commencement.
Right. All right. Well, the one prerequisite, because that's a cool thing that we've done over the years, is you want the main event to be a tag match. So
that was the premise they used in those early years.
Correct. The first 2 years. Correct.
And 3 out of 4.
And 3 out of the first 4. They did it in 91 too. You're right. Now, here's my thing. Here's the tag. The tag is simple. I think you do Hogan and Orndorff against Piper and Orton.
We're talking in SummerSlam 80. We're talking about starting in 1985 here.
Correct. I'm sorry. Look at me. I'm just jumping blindly. Listen to me. I'm so stupid. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. Listen to me. I'm making everyone guess here in the Looking Glass. Yes, we're going to go back the previous 3 years. So we're going to sculpt SummerSlams for 1985, 1986, and 1987. That'll be the back end of our episode this week. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for actually being the actual a better co-host than me this week. I'm just throwing matches around. We don't know what year we're in or whatever. No. So let's do the first SummerSlam after the first WrestleMania. So let's do SummerSlam 1985. Now my main event makes sense.
Yes.
I think Hulk Hogan and Paul Orndorff against Piper and Orton.
Yeah, absolutely. That plays right out of WrestleMania. That's a key thing. Obviously, Orndorff had fired Heenan. He and Piper were at odds after what happened at the end of WrestleMania. And the other element you can really play into the build to this story is Piper and Orton on Piper's Pit can be saying things like, Hogan, can you really trust Paul Orndorff? Can you trust this guy? We couldn't even trust him. He turned on us. Now, obviously, that's not what happened, but it's heel logic.
Of course, yeah. Yep.
He turned on us. He turned his back on us. He'll turn his back on you. So you can play into that disloyalty. You can imagine Vince in commentary in the weeks building up to it, sort of asking the question: Can Paul Orndorff be trusted by Hulk Hogan? And obviously the outcome of the match is, you probably have that moment where Hogan's reaching for the tag and Orndorff, does he accept the tag? Yes, he does. He comes in, cleans a bit of house, and then Hogan can come back in and drop the leg and they win and raise each other's arms. And there's the big sort of victory moment.
Yep, I agree. My next match is cake. We just move it from July to August. And I want Greg Valentine and Tito Santana for the Intercontinental title in a steel cage.
Oh,
the match in Baltimore that happened on July 6th, put it at SummerSlam. And the Garden will go. Or where would you go back to the Garden again? Where would you put? Let's do that. What venue? We really can't go to the Garden. You can't do the Garden 2 times.
Yeah. Do you do it in somewhere like Boston?
Yes. Yeah, or Philly. It's got to be one of the big. If you're going to really push it, it's got to be in one of the 4 big venues. You can't do it at MSG because we just did WrestleMania 1. So I would do it at Maple Leaf Gardens, Boston Garden, or the Spectrum.
I think it would either need to be Boston or Philly. I think that's probably the key. I think they're the 2 key ones.
Yeah.
Philly would go absolutely nuts for a cage match, especially if you got enough blood in it.
Well, that match is. I mean, if you've ever watched it, Dave, I'm not sure if you have or not, but if you've ever watched that Tito Hammer cage match from Baltimore, it's pretty vicious. That's awesome. The match is so great. One of my favorite cage matches of all time. I couldn't put it on my GWW Top 100 because it was never on TV. It was never on national TV. So, but here at the Spectrum or in Boston, I think the place would go batshit when Tito wins the title. Batshit.
Yeah.
I would have the U.S. Express win back their World Tag Team titles.
They won the tag team titles back several months ago. Like Sheik and Volkov are only champs for about 6 to 8 weeks. So I actually think this is your opportunity to perhaps have
the Dream Team win.
Either win the match or win by DQ or count out or something. Like a cheap outcome that is going to this could be their first encounter that could lead to the eventual title change. So maybe it's a double DQ or a double count out. They fight on the floor and battle to the back. But absolutely, I agree. The Express and the Dream Team for the tag titles.
Okay. So let me start typing here so I can get it set for us. Okay. 1985. Okay. All right. So, come on. I hate Google Docs. You suck. All right. So, yeah. So, sorry. Trying to type this, and I'm in the midst of a bunch of thunderstorms here in the Northeast. I'm lucky we're still in the air. All right. So Hogan and Orndorff. All right, so 1985. So Hogan and Orndorff versus Piper and Orton. Tito Santana versus Valentine in a cage. We have U.S. Express versus Dream Team. All right.
Now I think we need to find something for Andre.
I was already thinking that.
You need to have Andre in the ring. Now he's done with Stud. He beat Stud at Mania. We don't need to have another match with Stud. I also don't think.
What's your theory? I half agree with you. I half agree with you on that. But continue what you're saying, because I have a match that might not be too bad, and I have kind of an underlying feeling about it. But go ahead, keep talking. But I have a theory where we kind of keep Stud in it, but on the periphery. But go ahead.
Well, the other thing is he was battling Stud for probably 12 months before he had that WrestleMania match. So they've I feel that feud is probably done by this point. You don't need to rehash it. So if you want to try and find someone for Andre to face, you want to make it you want to make it something competitive. But the other person I think we need to avoid is King Kong Bundy, because Bundy is on the rise going to WrestleMania 2. You don't want Bundy losing to Andre in a one-on-one match. So I think you can't go down that line. And I also don't think you want to be doing Bundy and Stud tagging yet, because, as I said, Bundy's being built towards WrestleMania 2. So I just feel Andre's in a bit of a awkward spot here that maybe you need to consider putting him in a match. maybe someone like Jesse the Body.
Could he still wrestle?
Yes, he's still active until he's regular active until about September, October.
Okay. All right. Well, then you're going to hate my theory then, because I proposed. Here's the problem. If you are looking ahead to, I mean, it's obviously hard to say whether we're going to do Hogan Andre at WrestleMania 3. It's hard to look ahead to that when we're in
August of
85. I was thinking Stud and Bundy against Andre and Snuka. Unless Snuka's already left and went to AWA. No, he might still be in WWF.
I'm just looking at historyofwwe.com, and in late August, I'm not seeing Snuka on any of the cards. So he may have left by that point.
He might have already headed to he may have already headed to AWA. All right.
Yeah.
Hillbilly Jim?
He was in the company, but I think this is when he had his knee injury.
Oh. Damn it. Here's my theory. I want to get Bundy elevated.
Mm-hmm.
And my thought was use a tag where maybe they get a win somehow, but Bundy attacks somebody. Like Bundy and elevate somebody by attacking somebody, whether it's Andre maybe, or maybe not Andre, because then you'd have to have a feud and you don't want Bundy to lose the feud. I'm trying to think of something. I guess I'm trying to think of something where Bundy could get put over.
What if Bundy just wrestled someone like Junkyard Dog and beat him? JYD was at the upper end of the card, but was already on a he was the holder. He was the guy you went through to get to Hogan.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Because you could do that, and you could do Andre versus Jesse the Body, and that gets. I mean, Jesse was a powerhouse guy. I mean, he would probably fancy his chances against Andre, from a kayfabe point of view as a character. And Andre and Jesse's career was about to finish anyway, so Andre could beat him, and I don't think it wouldn't be a problem.
Right. All right. So do we want to do Bundy versus JYD? We're still not sure what to do with Andre?
I like the idea of Andre versus Jesse.
That won't end well. But, it could be interesting.
Or if you really wanted to have some fun, Andre could face Sheik and Volkov in a handicap match.
Oh, that could be fun. Let's do that. I like that better because I want Jesse on commentary. Andre Sheik or Andre Volkov. We'll do or. It doesn't necessarily have to be a handicap match. You don't want to bury both guys simultaneously. Not yet, anyway. Andre versus Sheik or Volkov. All right.
Well, in late '85, Corporal Kirchner has made his debut in the company. Maybe Andre tags with Corporal Kirchner against Sheik and Volkov.
Mm-hmm. Could do that. Mm. Andre and Kirchner. Interesting. Yeah, you know what? Let's do that. I actually like that idea because Andre could put over this new guy. Because if you're with Andre, then you're obviously kind of rarefied. Hopefully, Andre, the boss, doesn't get pissed off at him. Hey,
Yeah.
drink more beer. Okay. Andre and Corporal Kirchner against Sheik and Volkov. Okay. That's 5 matches.
Right. Someone else, I think there are 2 other people I think need to be on the card in separate matches. One of them is the Dragon. Ricky Steamboat he's in. He debuted, he was at WrestleMania. And this is around the time period, I think, where he began or was feuding with Morocco.
That's what I just put. Yeah, I agree.
So I'm thinking Steamboat and Morocco is one match. And the other guy who I think needs to be on the card is the Macho Man. He's in the company, and it was a week or two. It was in mid to late August, when he officially announced Elizabeth as his manager. So you could do Savage with coming out with Elizabeth as his manager, and you could do a showcase for Savage.
I just thought of Savage. Oh, yeah.
And he could beat someone like an Ivan Putski or a Pedro Morales or there's enough. He's still only just a new arrival, so it doesn't need to be anyone that's super high up, but it could someone who's got that name value that by beating him, Macho looks good, but it's also someone who, by losing, they can take the loss, their careers at the end.
Yeah, I would definitely do a Putski or a Pedro. Maybe Pedro. I think Pedro's got a little more juice. He still. Let me type that. So Steamboat versus Morocco, Savage versus Morales. All right, this is a big one. Now we have 7 matches, so I think we're good at the moment. But there is one guy that's technically still. Oh. I got an idea. Yeah. Since this match didn't happen at WrestleMania, and it should have, we could do it here. How about Brutus and Johnny Valiant against father and son Sammartino?
But then you lose your tag team title match.
Oh, right. Forgot I had the Dream Team. Never mind. Duh.
And I don't know that we want to subject the audience to another David Sammartino match.
That is true. But I could watch Da Brune anytime, any day. Do we find something for Bruno to do?
Does Bruno tag with Andre?
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Damn you, Dave Hall. You're a fucking genius. Sorry, Corporal. You're going to have to get built up another way. Andre and Bruno against Sheik and Volkov. Oh, yeah. I like that.
It can be very much. Bruno can just be, this is a one-off. I'm sick of Sheik and Volkov bad-mouthing this country that I've come to love. I'm a citizen here now. Yes, I emigrated here just like everyone else, but me and Andre, we call this place home now, and we're not going to put up with what Sheik and Volkov are saying.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think so. And Bruno's Bruno, and he'll bring He'll fill up any of these buildings. So Bruno in Boston is no different than Bruno in the city. So, so this is our SummerSlam 85 card. 7 matches. Hogan and Orndorff against Piper and Orton. Santana versus Valentine, IC belt in the cage. U.S. Express versus Dream Team for the tag belts. Bundy versus JYD. Andre and Bruno against Sheik and Volkov. Steamboat versus Morocco. Savage versus Pedro. The only thing we could add, if you still think they're hot enough, would you give Wendy Richter a women's title match?
Actually, that's a really, really good point. I think you would. No, absolutely. Wendy Richter needs to be on the card. I agree. She was still a focal point of the company. Obviously, the women's division's pretty crap. I think, honestly, you're finding any woman not named Fabulous Moolah and not Leilani Kai in a rematch. You're finding any other woman in the world who can come in and take a loss. That's it. I think, yes, I agree. Wendy Richter should be on the card.
Do you give a rematch with Leilani Kai?
No, I think WrestleMania was the rematch between them because
that's true.
Leilani had won that. So I don't know who Wendy Richter faces. Honestly, I don't think it really matters. I think you'd have to go scouring the sites for which women were active at the time. But I just think you find a woman who's not Fabulous Moolah, and Wendy has a win.
One of those old bags like, Judy Martin or Donna Cristiano or one of those.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Okay. Yeah, one of them.
All right, so I'll just type Richter title match. All right, so 8 matches on our SummerSlam 85 card. Hogan and Orndorff against Piper and Orton. Santana versus Valentine in a cage for the IC belt. U.S. Express versus Dream Team for the tag titles. Bundy versus JYD. Andre and Bruno against Sheik and Volkov. Steamboat versus Morocco. Savage versus Morales. And Wendy Richter defends against Who Cares? I like that card. That's actually pretty great. That's a pretty great card, I have to say. Okay. Let's move ahead a year. Let's go to SummerSlam 86. Now, let's now for those that are fans, we do know that a summer big show did happen. On August 28th, 1986, at Exhibition Stadium in Toronto. It was called The Big Event. Had 61,000. It had 11 matches. Most of this card is kind of but I could cherry. Well, we have to do a main event tag match, and this was not a main event tag.
Do we consider running the event at Toronto? Like, do we replace the big event with SummerSlam?
We could. I don't know if I'd put it. I don't know if Vince was ready to put a pay-per-view in a big venue. Maybe they do Maple Leaf Gardens instead of Exhibition Stadium. Yeah, I mean, I think Vince would be comfortable enough to put it in Toronto, but I don't know if he would do it at Exhibition Stadium because that place is really whacked out for logistics. It probably wasn't great for a live event. It was probably good enough to put on a tape. So they would probably still do it indoors, and they'd probably do it if they did it in Toronto, they do it at Maple Leaf Gardens. So, the only matches that I would probably take off this card would be Steamboat and Jake in the Snake Pit match. Because they had the thing on Saturday's main event, it smashed into the DDT into the concrete. Yeah. So I think that match I would put on there.
I think the other match that you would probably put on in some form, but not necessarily the exact form that it is, would be the Machines versus Bundy and Stud, because
Yeah.
that was the storyline. But I would probably just do it as a tag match with Bundy and Stud not knowing which two machines are actually going to compete in the match. And I mean, you could do the whole giant machine at ringside. And I know they did this on, they did do, yeah, they sort of did it in the ring, but you could have them switch positions and, even someone stepping in who's not part of the match. Like, you could play around with that, but I would have the Machines and Bundy and Stud from a storyline perspective. That was what was one of the big stories over the summer.
It was.
I wouldn't have Bobby and Lou in the match. They'd just be managing. I would keep it as a tag.
Yeah, I would keep them out of it. It'd be annoying. You want a good match, so I would keep them out of it. We got to talk about.
Should we talk about a potential main event?
Yeah. How about?
I'll give you the easy option, and you tell me if we run with it.
Okay.
Okay. So the two biggest storylines in the company at this time, you had the Hogan and Orndorff feud, which kicked off in mid-July on television. And you've got Piper has returned against Adonis, and they've done a lot of the Piper's Pit, Adrian Adonis, the flower shops, and a lot of that background has already started. The next, like, it was in August when they did Adonis, Piper destroying up the flower shop, when they did the dual Piper's Pit flower shop segment. So the easy option would be to do Hogan and Piper versus Orndorff and Adonis. That's just putting your big feuds together. But whether that works, whether that's what you want to do, is a different story.
I feel like Piper's not a babyface yet.
Well,
remember, he leaves.
Back. He just returned. So in August. In August is when he made his return on television, and they were doing they did the return of Piper's Pit. He was a guest on the flower shop. Like, they were doing the build, and it was clear that everyone was cheering him. And it was clear what they were doing with the with the direction of Piper, because all of that that flower shop versus Piper's Pit stuff was on television throughout this time period. I'm just double checking when the first one happened. Or did he come back after August?
I had a cool match. Even though he just came in the company, I have an alternate option. Hogan, Orndorff, and Harley.
Ooh.
Against Hogan and Bruno.
Ooh, that could be interesting.
You protect Orndorff's eating the pin, so we protect Harley because he ends up winning King of the Ring.
Harley's just been named king. Yeah, he's just been named King of the Ring.
So you're protecting him. Bruno's just there to put butts in seats, and Hogan, Orndorff lays down.
So Piper made his return to television on the 16th of August, interrupting the flower shop. And then he was on again the following week, interrupting the flower shop. So Piper has returned to television, but hasn't actually been in ring yet. So maybe the idea of having Hogan team with Bruno could be the way to go.
Okay. All right. So Hogan and Bruno, because I think that's a cool team against Orndorff and Race.
And
Okay.
maybe, yep, okay. I like that because this was really, he just arrived, he just won King of the Ring. This is probably when Race has got the most to offer.
Right.
So it makes sense. And a lot of while the WWF wasn't presenting Harley Race as that multi-time world champion, you're still in an era where a lot of the wrestling fans, a lot of the WWF fans, there are a lot of people who still knew the history outside. And so there would be a lot of people who knew who Race was. And so seeing Hogan and Bruno and Race all in the ring together, I think would be a draw for a lot of wrestling fans in 1986.
Okay. Yeah. What do we do with Savage?
Well, Savage is
He's the Intercontinental Champion. He's red
the
hot.
Champion. Whatever he does, he is not to wrestle George the Animal Steel.
Absolutely not.
So look, on television, George Steele and Junkyard Dog had some tag teams on Superstars, and the JYD still had a lot to offer. Maybe Savage defends the title against JYD.
I like that idea for the reason that Savage wants his win back after JYD beat him at the Wrestling Classic.
Yes. And Jesse could play that up on commentary.
Yep.
Actually, you could just picture a Gorilla saying, look, these guys faced it at the Wrestling Classic. We were there. JYD won, and this is going to be, JYD is going to do it. And Jesse could have even do the pre-match interview where he's talking to Savage, and he's sort of like, Savage is going, I've got a long memory, and I remember last year when you cheated to beat me, when you
right,
as we know, heels just make things up, but it would work.
Right.
And then the match ends. I wouldn't have him drop the elbow. I'd have him cheat, feet on the ropes, pulling of the tights, something that's just, he's been talking up how he will win clean and how he's great champion. And then he does some sort of cheating so that Jesse and Gorilla can really play up that side of the story.
I agree. I think that works. We need the British Bulldogs defending the tag team titles.
I think there's only one challenger for them in August of '86. The team that are going to eventually take the titles from them.
I was typing their name already.
Bouncing around the house show circuit with at the time, and that's the Hart Foundation.
Yep, I had already typed it. Do they win?
No.
Or do you do like they do? Or are you going to do like you did with the Dream Team the previous year, where they kind of win in a schmaz or a schmazzy-ish or something?
Oh yeah, the Bulldogs could win by DQ. Maybe the Hearts use the megaphone in this one, and then that obviously can play into the future when they use the megaphone to actually win the title. And so no Danny Davis as referee. There's no Danny Davis involved here, and maybe the Hart Foundation get caught using the megaphone. And it's a DQ win to the Bulldogs, which then, can play into your future story when they do win the titles cheating and Danny Davis doesn't see it or overlooks it. And that just plays into that ongoing story.
Okay. Works for me.
Now, before we go into any further matches, I think this is where I think with Piper having returned, I think you do the special segment being the return of Piper's Pit. And on Piper's Pit, his guest is Bob Orton Jr., where he talks about, why are you with Adonis? Why are you, you're my bodyguard. You and me go way back, and you could sort of just play into the whole Orton is now with Adonis, but Piper's back.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because we got to start building that. So.
But having said that, I think Adrian Adonis needs to be in a match. He needs to be in a match against someone, and he wins it, and Piper does a run in at the end of the match.
Yep. Yeah, I'm good with that. Now let me see. All right, so we have Piper on the card now. Let's look at some of these others. Killer Bees against the Funks. Lord no.
You've got guys like Dick Slater in the company now. He might be able to take a lot. Well, he could take any loss. He's sucked by this point. His time in the company was just a waste. The Rebel Dick Slater I don't think ever got over. So, Adonis could easily have a win over Slater. I don't think anyone would have a problem with that. You have King Tonga in there, the future Haku. He's arrived. He's got a match on the card. Maybe Adonis fights Tonga. I'm just imagining the man that is. Look, you want to talk about legit guys. I mean, there was a lot of talk. Adonis was a legit tough guy.
Yes, he was.
Imagine Adonis and Haku in a stiff match.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny, actually. Yeah, that would be pretty funny. All right, so Adonis Tonga. We have a pit with Orton. I don't really care. I mean, we got the Bees. Morocco. I don't care about Morocco at this point.
Morocco's more likely going to insert himself in the Adonis match or Piper's Pit because they were all aligned. He was all tied in with that little group. Billy Jack Haynes is in the company now. I wouldn't put Ted Arcidi on the thing, but Billy Jack has arrived.
Well, Billy Jack wrestles Hercules. We get a WrestleMania 3 match here, which is kind of nonsense.
Yeah, and it wasn't a good match.
We got the Rougeaus.
You've got the Dream Team. You probably the Dream Team against either the Rougeaus or the Killer Bees. I think that there's a second tag, sort of regular tag team division match that you could probably put on the card.
Rougeaus are faces.
Yes, they've only been in the company a couple of months.
Would you keep Rougeau's Dream Team because that was at the big event?
It was a pretty average match. I think and part of that is probably because it was in Toronto, in Canada. I think if you were having the match in the US, I would probably have the Killer Bees facing the Dream Team.
Okay.
But I just don't think the Rougeaus were over enough really with the US audience to have them in a feature match at this point. They'd only been in the company a few months. They really hadn't been seen much on television, and they were very bland as baby faces. Very bland. Yeah. And honestly, until they turn heel, they are really nothing to. They just turning heel was the best thing that ever happened to them.
Yeah, I agree. You're totally right on that. All right, so Bees versus Dream Team, Rougeau's versus...
Rougeau's can stay home.
Okay. How about Billy Jack? He just needs a squash win. How do we do Billy Jack Haynes and like Jimmy Jack Funk or something?
Yeah.
Somebody
like
he
that.
could squash.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that gives us 8 matches and a pit. I think we're good. Hogan and Bruno against Orndorff and Race. Steamboat Jake Snake Pit. Machines versus Bundy and Stud. Savage against JYD for the US title. Listen to me. For the Intercontinental title. Bulldogs Heart Foundation for the tag titles. There's a Piper's Pit with Bob Orton, where we begin the build to Piper and Adonis. Adonis, King Tonga. B's Dream Team, Billy Jack Haynes, Jimmy Jack Funk. 2 Jacks. I like that. It's a solid card. It's a solid SummerSlam card. All right. To wrap it up, we'll go one more year, the last year before SummerSlam actually happens, and let's go to SummerSlam 1987. Now, there was no, fancy show in 1987. For us to kind of gauge. So, all right. Now,
if you're looking at a main event, I think if we look at 87 and we look at where things are going, I think you could run the consideration that you could have SummerSlam 87 could potentially be Andre's return to the ring. You could possibly pump up Andre's returning to the ring as one half of the tag team, with Hogan obviously on the other side. Andre having not been seen since WrestleMania 3 in ring. I know, look, in the real timeline, his return to the ring was Survivor Series. Similar sort of circumstances. The big card, that was his big return to the ring. There's no reason why you couldn't do it at SummerSlam if you wanted. Not saying that that's what we should do. That's an option. But if you're looking at what to do with Hogan and maybe a tag team option, I've got a potential partner for him that I think would have made good television.
Okay.
Superstar Billy Graham has returned to the company in August, and he's still in ring. He hasn't had his injury. His hip hasn't put him out completely. I think you could look at putting him in him and Hogan in a tag team match would make good television.
Yes. Hogan teaming with another legend, former WWF champion. Okay. So you have Hogan, and Hogan could kind of protect Superstar Billy Graham if he's not.
That's right.
100%.
Absolutely.
Who do you put Andre with?
Well, Andre would need to team with someone from the Heenan. Maybe Bundy, because we know Bundy and Hogan have a couple of matches on main event in late 87, early 88, and Andre ends up being in Bundy's corner each time. Maybe this is your way of putting over that he's part of the Heenan family now. Maybe he teams with Bundy.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm not saying it's the way to go. I'm just saying it could be an option. Another option, maybe you don't have Andre in there. Maybe Hogan and Superstar face off against Butch Reed and One Man Gang. Flex stable, because that's where it ends up. Butch Reed is the one who ends up hurting Billy Graham.
Gives Butch Reed a bit of a spike. Although in our universe, do you want to reward Butch Reed for giving us a honky a honky IC title reign? I feel like we shouldn't reward Butch Reed, but nah. All right. I mean, Butch Reed and Hogan could do a lot of the heavy lifting. So instead of Bundy, Butch Reed. Why not? Something different. Butch Reed could attack Hogan. Maybe Butch Reed gets like a rando, world title match on like a Saturday Night's Main Event in like July or something. And Andre comes back and attacks him. We haven't seen Andre on TV since losing at WrestleMania 3. And now he comes back, attacks Hogan with Butch Reed, and Hogan wants to wrestle with his idol, superstar Billy Graham, and all that. I think we could spin that narrative. I think we could spin that narrative to that main event. I like that idea.
He manages at ringside.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm good with that. I like that as a main event. I had forgotten about a certain title change because I was ready to give us a Savage Steamboat rematch. Then I forgot.
That ain't gonna happen.
Because I was going to have Savage Steamboat and then Savage shake Steamboat's hand after the match to kind of start his face turn. Guess we can't do that. Do we do Honky Savage?
Probably. I think, this could be. I mean, look, it was all over TV that, that's what Honky was doing. He was talking about being the greatest, and Savage had essentially been turned on television because of it. So you could do it as their first big encounter, and Honky can take the belt and walk away. Just straight out walk out. And then that sets up your future rematch at Saturday night's main event.
Yeah. All right. So, and Savage maybe wins by DQ or something.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get our other title out of the way. So the Hart Foundation are the tag champions. Who do you like for number one contender?
Oh, gee. There's a good question.
Now, they end up losing the belts, month and a half later to Strikeforce.
I think we need to remember that the match, before we talk about the Hart Foundation, I think we need to remember that Strikeforce are in the middle of their feud with the Islanders at this point. I think the Strikeforce and the Islanders needs to be a tag team match on the card.
Okay.
With Strikeforce winning. Could almost be a number one contenders match.
Exactly. Yep, I agree with you. Totally.
But then you're really running the question, who is there left for the Hart Foundation to face? So your options then become, they could have a rematch with the Bulldogs, although the Bulldogs, Dynamite's back, but look, they're just a shell of themselves now. You could have them face the Killer Bees. The Killer Bees were certainly, still very prominent at this point and never really had any major televised title shot. So that could become a potential tag team title match, which certainly work. You're also talking about a time period where Mike Rotundo was tagging with Dan Spivey, the second-rate version of the US Express. So they're your babyface tag teams at this point in 1987. Strikeforce, the Bees, the Bulldogs, and the American Express. The Young Stallions don't really start doing anything until a few weeks before Survivor Series. So or you've got the Rougeos.
I like the Bees. I feel like they've earned, because they do start fading by the end of 87, but I would like to see the Hart Foundation and the Bees get 15, 16 minutes. That's my take. I think they would be the best. Because I think if the Hart Foundation's going to retain, we at least need to give the audience a great match. And not just a match for the Hearts to retain or whatever. If Strikeforce is not going to get it here, I would absolutely give it to the Killer Bees. That's just my take. I feel like if the Hart Foundation's going to retain, we at least need to give the audience a 4-star match, 4.5-star match. What do you think?
Sorry, I just realised I'd accidentally bumped my mute button, and I was talking away, and just realised I was mute.
I thought you hated the Killer Bees that much.
No, absolutely agree. I think the Killer Bees will put on a really good match. Yeah, like you said, a 15, 16-minute showcase match that's gonna, that they would entertain the fans. They keep everyone invested, and it gives the it gives the Killer Bees a little bit of a showcase, which, like I said, they never really got that showcase title match in their entire time with the company. So
no, they didn't.
It's sort of a nice way to sort of give them a bit of a rub before you're going to start, phasing them out completely.
Okay, so there we go there. So, all right, so we got four matches so far. 3 tags. We're right in your wheelhouse, Dave. 3 tags.
All right, other key players in sort of mid to late 87. You've got Rude has arrived in the company. You probably need to be doing something with Rude. Now, they were doing the whole, I don't think Orndorff was back yet, because that comes later. That comes closer to, or was he? No, I think he was back, actually. Do you look at doing Rude Orndorff? Yeah, Orndorff was back. He was around the traps. He was back on television in August. So, that plays in. Rude had Orndorff had fired Bobby Heenan again, and that was part of the premise storyline, was Bobby Heenan replaced Paul Orndorff with ravishing Rick Rude while Orndorff was out hurt.
So Rude versus Orndorff. They could talk about each other's physiques. Yeah, I like that idea. Harley Race is still a heel and he's healthy.
He's still the king.
Still the king.
Probably need him to have a match as well. Probably need him to king up and king about.
Do you give him Duggan?
Not at this point. Was Duggan even back yet, or was he still?
Oh no, he might have still been fired for
still under his hanging out with Iron
New
Sheik.
Jack, New Jack Citying with the Sheik on the Parkway. Yeah.
What about someone like Jake?
Ooh. How about Billy Jack Haynes?
Yeah. I think if you're looking at the roster, Jake needs to be somewhere on the card. Harley Race needs to be somewhere on the card. You've got they're 2 key players that need to be somewhere doing something.
Yes. I would give him. We could give him Rude because Jake could do the whole, another guy full of royalty and you're making people grovel and all that kind of thing.
So who are we giving? Who are we giving? Whose race's
Jake.
opponent?
Jake.
Jake.
I like Jake there. That's a good call, Dave. I like Jake on that.
And another. Well, here's another match that we should probably consider on the card. And as much as it wasn't really played in, like I know Valentine was teaming with Dino Bravo really is the new dream team at this point. But what about Beefcake and Greg the Hammer? With Dino Bravo in Hammer's corner.
Okay. The dream team explodes. Yeah, I like that.
Just what everyone wanted.
Yes. That gives us 7 matches. We're in pretty good shape here. We have all of our title matches.
Who have we got so far? We've got our title matches.
Yep.
Now we know Steamboat's sort of on hiatus at the moment. He's not really around yet. He comes back for Survivor Series, but he's not back yet. So who have we got on our cards so far? Let's just go through this again. So we've got Hogan and Superstar versus Andre and Butch Reed. Hearts and the Killer Bees, Honky and Savage. Then we had Strike Force versus the Islanders. We had Harley Race versus Jake the Snake. And Greg Valentine versus Brutus Beefcake, and Paul Orndorff versus Rick Rude. Is that correct?
Yes. We have Hogan, Graham, Andre, and Reed, Honky Savage, Heart Foundation Killer Bees, Strike Force Islanders, Rude Orndorff, Race Jake, Beefcake Valentine. That's what we got.
So I'm looking at that, and I can't see any of the main players in the company, the guys that were really being pushed, they've got a focal point of storylines. I can't see that we're missing anyone on the roster. The one thing I would note is that DiBiase is in the company, but I would not have him wrestling on this show. I would have him in a segment. I would have him at the event in a segment, doing something, just, one of the vignettes, showcasing the money. You're really putting over the $1 million character, whether they do the, like stuff that they were doing on Superstars. You do one of those on SummerSlam, bounce the basketball, do push-ups, whatever it is, that sort of thing to just put the character over.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So the other players that are really sort of around at this time that we could consider, you've got guys like Coco Beware. He's not long company. He's around now. Maybe you could have him fight someone like Hercules. You've got Demolition are in the company and making their rise. Although we've got a few tag matches already, it might be a bit much to have another one.
How about Coco? And I know you're gonna laugh, but this guy is not hot. But I mean, he did get a big win at Mania, and maybe Coco could feed off it. How about Coco and Danny Davis?
Oh, I like that. Coco obviously gets the win.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Davis had a ton of heat. That's actually not a bad match.
Yeah, I think that's good. We got the win at Mania, cheap pin. So you can brag about that for 4 months, 5 months. That gives us 8 matches.
I
think we have all the major players covered.
The only other match that maybe could be considered, the other feud that had sort of started brewing at the time was Morocco and Bob Orton. They'd split, and Morocco was starting to change his physique. And he'd gone babyface, was changing his physique, and Cowboy Bob was obviously on the way out, but they had clearly split on television, and that could be just an extra match you get on the card to finish that storyline off. Morocco gets the win, and maybe he's seen backstage at some point talking with Hogan and superstar Billy Graham.
Yeah. I'm okay with that. I think that's good. I think that, and then that finishes that off, and then Morocco will start working with superstar Billy Graham and, get all nice and swole and get himself into 88. Yeah. All right, so here is our SummerSlam 87 card. We didn't pick a venue. I'll give you this one, Dave. Where would you like SummerSlam 87 to be?
Oh. Is this one that you could take back to the Garden?
If you do that, then we have to put 88 somewhere else.
Oh,
could do 2 years in a row. How about Chicago?
Yeah.
We haven't been to Chicago in a couple of years.
Mm.
Well, a third of WrestleMania 2, that doesn't count. So why don't and then because Survivor Series will be in Richfield. So all right, so SummerSlam 87 will be at Rosemont. Hogan and Graham against Andre and Butch Reed, main event. Honky Savage for the IC belt. Hart Foundation Killer Bees for the tag. Strike Force Islanders. I think that match is going to be hot. Rude Orndorff. Jake Harley for the King. Beefcake Valentine, the Mega Power split. Mega Powers. The Dream Team splits. Some people may think it's a Mega Power. Coco and Danny Davis. They could curtain jerk. And then Morocco and Orton. I like that. It's a good card. It's balanced. And Hogan gets to work. Hogan spends the last 2 years working with legends in main events that he could kind of siphon their juice from, and they could use him to kind of hide their
deficiencies.
Yeah, their age.
And I think this is the 1 year where you probably you need something like that, because because Andre will have been out for so long and you don't really have anything ready-made at the top of the card. Superstar Billy Graham's return, that was really pushed as a big thing as the former champion. So they could play we've got the two former champions in the ring and Andre wants the title. So you've got the man, Bobby Heenan could do the whole, this is the future champion right here. Andre the Giant's a future champion. And the only reason he was willing to even maybe face Hogan and Superstar on his own, but Jack Tunney advised that there's got to be a tag team partner. And then Butch Reed on television starts mouthing off with Billy Graham. And so that's where Butch Reed gets inserted into the main event picture.
Okay.
But you really would be relying on the Hogan Superstar Billy Graham teaming up, first time ever, two former champions. Not the hyperbole of the company at the time. You probably even touted as the two greatest champions of all time, even though we know that's not legitimately true, and that might cause issues for Bruno. So maybe you wouldn't say that, but two former champions. Never teamed before. First time ever.
Right.
That becomes the draw.
Yep. Okay. You're a good pitch man, Dave. You're definitely a good pitch man, I have to say. You are a good man at uplifting some of these matches that I think some people might be a little skeptical of. But anyway, there's our cards for SummerSlams 1985, 1986, and 1987. We hope you think they're pretty good, because Dave and I are kind of proud of them. And with that, we thank you for joining us this month for another excellent trip through the Looking Glass. Dave, we know where to find you. You're always around our pages and stuff. You can hit him up on Facebook. You've been doing some great stuff on Cronoso. I enjoyed the SummerSlam 89 piece. What do you got coming up?
So we've recently dropped. We're in between Survivor Series 88 and Royal Rumble 89. And we've
Right.
got 3 mixed bag episodes that are coming through. So we've just recently dropped the episode that contains Saturday night's main event, following Survivor Series 88. So that one dropped a couple of weeks ago. And we've got a couple of ones coming up that'll feature a few of the TV matches and the build to the Royal Rumble. So keep your eye out for them. There's some good stuff coming up.
Yes, there is, definitely. And of course, everything we have here on the PTB Wrestling Network coming up. If you're listening to this on Wednesday as it drops, Friday we will have our next episode of Main Event, where me and whoever's around, we always like to surprise you, we'll preview, because this coming weekend is AEW All In from London. We'll preview that card for you. And then next weekend we'll be back for another episode of Main Event, where we'll preview Bash in Berlin. And I think there's an NXT the next night. I think it's... is there an NXT the next night? I think there is. Yeah, I think No Mercy is the next night, I think. Anyway, that'll be in a couple weeks. But coming up later this week, if you're listening to this on the day it drops, there'll be a new episode of Place to Be Nation's Main Event, where we will preview AEW's All In, which is this coming Saturday at Wembley. Dave, always a pleasure. You're the best. I always enjoy working with you. You're one of my favorites forever. We hope you enjoyed this trip through the Looking Glass. For Dave Hall, I am Scott Criscuolo. We'll figure out something fun for September, and we will see you in September through the Looking Glass.